everyone, and welcome to the first of your Introduction to Power BI sessions. My name's Rick, and we're going to start by having a little look at the interface itself. I'll just share this wee screen with you, and I'll take you through it. Now, when you first open up Power BI, get me out the way there we go, you'll see something a bit like this. The background colour changes sometimes on the startup. Power BI is updated almost on a monthly basis. Sometimes they change that. But when you first open up, you'll see this. Just to show you this little bit here, there's some great little tutorial videos and so on they've created and so on in there. Worthwhile having a look if you want to keep any more training going. I'm just going to close that down a minute, and I'm going to show you the three different interfaces within Power BI before we start loading any data. This first one here is called the report view. This is where we're going to build our visuals once we've transformed the data, and this is the thing that we then publish and share, but that's for further down the line. And within there we have various different sections here: filters, visualizations, and data. Quite handy wee chevrons, so if you're working on, say, a laptop screen, it's about here, you can close these down and you've got more space to work. The other one, report view, is now called the table view. You may, if anybody's used this before, at one point it was called the data view, but this is the same thing. And when we load our data in, this is where we'll see it. And there's a third view there called the model view. Now, this is where we join data sets together. This is where it gets really powerful. And we'll get to this at some point, but it's just to show you the interface itself. Okay, so let's get cracking. We can bring data in so many different versions into Power BI: Excel, CSV, Power BI datasets, MySQL, etc., etc., etc. The dataset that I've shared with you, I would advise, I'll just show you where mine is, stick it on your OneDrive. And what I tend to do is I put it in a folder on my OneDrive. This one's just called Intro to Power BI PLP version. And I'm also going to save the report into there as well. I would advise, whenever we're using it, take your data, put it in a folder and don't move it. What we're doing with Power BI, we're not importing the whole data set in, we're linking to that data. And the reason why I suggest we don't move it at all, this becomes live. You can change what's called the data source settings, but it's a bit more complicated. I can show you how to do that. But if you stick all your data sets you're going to use into one folder, don't move them, the connection is always there. Because the point of these dashboards is they can update in real time. So if your data sets are there and updating, Power BI is still connected to them. We just do a wee refresh and all the data updates. So you're going to use this one called New PBI Starter Student Version. And we've got, as with anything Microsoft, half a dozen ways of doing this. We've got import data from Excel, get data, etc. Doesn't matter which one we use, I'm just going to use that get data Excel workbook. Click on the one that you want and be patient. Now, Power BI is a fairly power-hungry application. I'm on quite a all singing, all dancing, latest laptop and so on here. And even so, you have to give it a little bit of time. So depending upon your speed of your Wi-Fi and your machine itself, just be patient, it'll get there. Okay, so what we did was we selected New PBI Starter. That was the starter file that I sent you. And you've got an option within there for selecting which of those tables within the workbook that we want to bring in. And in the first instance, I just want you to bring in DEC report, Data Education Colleges report. Just to once again reiterate, the data in here is fictional. We haven't actually got 160,000 students yet. Okay, so when we select this particular table, you'll get a little summary, there we go, of the data that's within the table. You've got the option there to go in and transform things, but at this stage, let's just load it. So press load, and again, a little bit of patience, and it'll be in the background, allow it to do its thing, It's looking to see whether or not there's any connections that can put together. It can't as yet because we've only brought one table in. There are 10,000 rows of data, so not a huge data set. And there we go. Nothing obviously there as yet, but along the right-hand side of the report view, you've got your DEC report. And if I drop that chevron down, it gives you all the field names there, all the column headers. Don't know if anyone speaks Greek, but anything with a little sigma next to it, that denotes a number field. And just a little refresher, I'm sure you all know this, but the way that the data is held, whether it's Excel, Power BI, Python, affects what we can do with it. Your main data types, number, text, Boolean, doesn't mean I'm picking on you, true, false, or date. Date's an important one because months have different numbers of days. Every 4 years, you've got a different number of days in the year. So if that data is stored as a date, we can start subtracting and adding and so on from it. Anyway, if it's a number, it usually has a little sigma next to it. If it's text, it doesn't. If we then have a little look down at the table view, you'll see we've got all of our data in there. There we go. Something I would always advise you to do when you're working with any data set whatsoever, particularly if it's something that you're not necessarily used before, explore that data set, find out what it's all about. In this one, we've got, just click off there, we've got a class ID. So this is a unique ID for each fictional class. We've got the year, and as with Excel, you drop that down and it gives you the unique values. Although similarly with Excel, it only gives you the top 10,000 unique values. So when you start dealing with huge data sets and there are maybe 50,000 unique values in there, it'll just give you the top 10,000. We've got the number of students in each class, the completion rate percentage, what CQF level it is, the name of the course, mandatory and optional units, which of your colleges it was done through, which city that college is in, or in fact, the city refers to sort of like a head office, and then the various different campuses. There we go. We've also got which region they're in and delivery method, whether it be online, hybrid, in-person, or self-directed. Okay. So that's our data. There is nothing connected in the model view yet. What you'll get within the model view, when we load a secondary table in, we can then connect it and do summaries and so on, but that's for session 2. So let's go back to the report view. Let's get started. As I said a few minutes ago, within the report view, you've got filters. I'm going to close that down because we're not going to use that for the first couple of videos. We've then got the visualizations and the data itself. Now, to create your visualizations, there are multiple ways of doing it. We're going to start with a nice easy one, students in each college. So all you do is, you've got a field there called number of students, and what I'll do is I'll widen this out a wee bit so that everybody can see everything. So if I just click number of students, you'll see it starts creating this column chart. You'll see within the visualizations pane that the clustered column chart is 4 along at the top. That is the default chart if you start with a number field. If I then add in college, just click college, and immediately we've got a breakdown of the number of students per college. Let's do a second one. You'll see if you leave that one clicked, that's the one that activates. So if you start bringing other fields in, it'll try and add it into this one. We're going to create a secondary one. So just click it anywhere in the white space so it's not selected. And this time, we're going to use the same fields, but reverse it. So I'm going to go college first, and then number of students. And you'll notice that if you pick a text field first, the default one is a table. And the table on mine is 3 along and 5 down. That's the default one. Now we can always change these, but that's the default. So these two are identical information within there, just displayed in a different way. Within these charts, let's go back and activate the first one again there. You'll notice anybody who's done pivot tables in Excel, the column headers and the titles and so on are, well, they are the sum of the number of students, but it's not very user friendly. So we're going to get into the habit of updating these. And we've got this little kind of funnel here, the filter. It shows you which filters are applied to whichever visual at the time. And at the moment, it says there's none. But we've also got these little 3 dots here. So every we go at that. And go down to sort axis. Now, at the moment, it's sorted by number of students descending. So we can say, right, let's change it to college. And that, if we want it, college, but alphabetical order rather than descending, ascending, we've got that sorted out. And obviously you can do the same with your table. You can go in there, sort by, in this case, college, and there we go, descending, or if you want it the other way, ascending. So it's the same data within there, just a different way of showing it. Okie doke. Now, the one thing that Power BI doesn't have at the moment is an autosave. My understanding is that people deal with such large data sets that if the autosave was on, depending on the speed of your computer, every time you did anything, it would try and send the whole thing up and would probably just crash. I did a H&D accounts class and we were using Excel, but we had 669,000 rows of data. We had to get them to turn off their autosave because every time they hit the button, it would try and send things up and it would just spin around. So my understanding is that's why. So let's save it to start with. At the moment, it's just called untitled. So no great surprise to anyone. File, we'll go save as. And something I tend to do, I always put the Power BI file in the same folders where the data is. You don't have to, it just keeps everything nice and neat and you know where everything is. So my folder I've created is, and you probably got a different named one, down there, new PBI, I'll put it in there. I've already got a version of it, so I'll call it DEC Report. I'll call it student version, I don't know which one I'm looking at. And the reason I do this is at any one point I've maybe got 20 or 30 different projects that I'm working on. So by keeping everything in one place, it just makes it nice and neat and so on. So save that and we're ready to go. There we go. All good. Right then, so leave that as it is for just now because we're actually going to revert back to page 1. You'll notice that you've got page 1. We'll create a new one, page 2. And if I was doing this in anger, I would always suggest renaming your report pages as well. Now, on page 2, it's city. Little caveat on this one. Firstly, I love the map visuals. I think they're really handy wee thing to see. It might not work on your machine. The map visual is the most power hungry of all the visuals. And sometimes, depending if you're on a work machine, your admin might have disabled that. So if it works, that's great, but it might not. So we've got a little bubble there for each of the cities where the colleges are based upon. But what we can do as well is, let's go number of students there as well. And you'll see that the bubbles change depending upon the value of the data within those bubbles. And then if I hover over them, tells me exactly how many students are within Edinburgh, Livingston, Galashiels, etc. based upon there. The map's a really handy little one to do. All right. So what we'll do just now is just get into the habit of this. We'll go File, Save. Really easy starter for you. We'll pause it there, go get a cup of tea, and I'll see you again in a few minutes. Thank you. Bye.